Is this on? This is my hmm, um I just wanted to say I'm unemployed. I'm 28 years old. So let's talk about it. You know what's interesting? I didn't know how bad the job market would be in 2026 in Vancouver. I applied to dozens of jobs and I haven't even heard back from most of those jobs. Anyways, that's all I wanted to say. Well, that's one thing I wanted to say. I just want to say how bad the job market is. I didn't expect, to be honest, I didn't expect, even if you go to university and you go to school and you get your degree, I didn't know how bad it was to make, how hard it was to actually find a job. And even going back to school doesn't really help. I can get another degree, but it won't make a big difference in the long run. So, a little bit about myself. So, I grew up in Ontario, in Canada. For most of my life, I grew up in the capital. And yeah, Ottawa compared to Vancouver, it's a lot quieter. There wasn't much to do growing up. And I grew up in subsidized housing too. And subsidized housing, it's not a very healthy environment when it comes to raising children. Now that I look back at it, obviously, but when you're in the moment, that's all the environment you know. You don't really know what it's like not to be raised in that environment unless you actually transitioned outside of that environment. Right now, I'm obviously not in subsidized housing right now, but growing up, um, it's not very healthy. Like most of the people there, you realize there's a lot of, you know, well, in the one I grew up, it wasn't that bad, but there's pretty bad areas when you grow up in subsidized housing, or I know America calls it the projects, drug dealers, drug addicts, and stuff. But mine wasn't that bad. It wasn't as bad as, a lot of projects or subsidized housing out there. I recently came to Vancouver and it was a big and then I went to, I did the whole tradition. I went to the traditional route. I went to school, did university, got a degree and stuff, and my first degree was useless, so I decided to get a second degree, but I didn't want to continue that degree, so I dropped out. I moved out to Vancouver and then trying to make money. I didn't know how horrible the job market was until I actually went to Vancouver, though. Trying to get by in Vancouver, especially how expensive the city is. Yeah. Anyways, that's all I want to say. This is a very rough, unedited draft for my first YouTube video. But yeah, um, like, subscribe, comment. If you have any questions, let me know. But yeah, my name is Osman. I hope you enjoy the YouTube video.